Thank you, Whittaker. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Columbus, an inclusive spiritual community of people who support each other in their personal search for truth and meaning. I'm Rick Spradlin, and I am your fill-in service leader this morning. Bill Harlan was set to be service leader, but he came in contact with a friend who has COVID, and so to be as cautious as necessary, he decided to stay home just in case. Although Bill wants you to know he's not showing any signs or symptoms, so let's keep him in our thoughts and prayers. Later in this program, our presenter will be Miss Joanie Andras, and she will be presenting Reconnecting with the Book of Joy, a book written by, in combination between is written about the conversation between Bishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama. We'll also have more music from Whittaker Locke. Okay, if I can, we'll have our lighting the chalice, and I'd like to get my grandson Max to come up here and help us. The chalice speaks to us of reason, tolerance, and freedom, and also compassion, justice, and love. May its flame ever warm and illuminate our lives. And now for our 7 principles this morning, I'd like to call attention to our 7th principle, the interconnectedness of everything. Now, when I first joined, it was the interconnectedness of all living things. But as we've said many times, our principles are not carved in stone, and occasionally they do change. It changed in recognition of what science has been telling us for a long time, is that it's not just that every living thing is connected, everything is connected. Sit in that chair long enough, and the carbon atoms that make up your body and the carbon atoms that make up that chair will actually swap places. Oh, you'll leave with the same amount of carbon you came in with, as will the chair, but they won't necessarily be the exact same carbon atoms. Think about that for a moment. Not only are you made of stardust, you're constantly trading places with stardust and everything else. So keep that in mind today. Joanie Andras is a Buddhist nun, a certified teacher of mindfulness, and of course, a member of our fellowship. She's going to offer today readings and commentary from the Book of Joy, which is Douglas Abrams' compilation of conversations between Archbishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama. So let's welcome again, Joanie Andras.
Hi. H-I-G-H. Whittaker, that was absolutely joyful.
That was the idea.
It was just absolutely joyful. And where'd Max go? Because I think Max could just do the whole talk. All we have to do is sit and watch him, right? Just amazing. So on my way over here this morning, I was thinking about gratitude. Actually, what came into my mind was how grateful I am to the people who make this fellowship possible. I'm not going to mention names because obviously I'm going to leave somebody out, but there are so many. I mean, everybody sitting here makes this happen. So my heart really opened to a great deal of gratitude as I was coming over. So I want to say thank you for coming on this chilly morning, beautiful, and good morning. So my talk is, I want to explain why Joyce is sitting here. I've asked Joyce to lead us in the reading at the very end of my talk, because every time I did the talk to a friend to prepare for this, I cried. So I said, I'm going to ask Joyce to do it. So revisiting the Book of Joy. How do we generate a sense of well-being and joy during these difficult outer circumstances? In trying to come to some sense of mental equilibrium, my mind has again and again reflected on the life experiences and advice given by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu in their book, The Book of Joy. So what is joy? Is it the same as a sense of well-being? I don't remember when I asked that particular question. What I do remember is when I first realized that the only change that I had any control over was the change within myself. And when I realized that, I was not a happy camper. No more could I place blame outside myself. I had to look inward. And while that has taken me on a very long journey, which continues and repeats and continues and repeats, so the question became, how does one cultivate a greater sense of well-being? How do we even know what needs to be done? And that's what brought me to meditation. First, it was hoping to quiet the mind. And then it became the ground of investigation, becoming familiar with patterns which caused discomfort. And then I was introduced to mindfulness-based stress reduction, and that became part of the path. And then the Book of Joy became part of our mindfulness classes. So the Book of Joy came about from the friendship of two iconic spiritual leaders, Archbishop Desmond Tutu and His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In their words, to celebrate one of our special birthdays, to celebrate their 80th birthdays, we met for a week in Dharamsala to enjoy our friendship and to create something that we hope will be a birthday gift for others. The book is a chronicle of their discussions during that week, discussions on joy and how they each work with difficult life experiences. Both of these men have experienced extreme pain and suffering during their lifetimes. Both faced oppression and exile, and yet they have maintained compassion and forgiveness. The final section of the book summarizes their ways of working with the mind to bring one to a place of joy. And these joy practices are presented as the 8 pillars of joy. The first 4 are perspective, humility, humor, and acceptance, and these are related to the mind. The last 4 are forgiveness, gratitude, compassion, and generosity, related to the heart. In that there is not time to discuss all 8 joy practices, I'm going to focus on the first, perspective, or we could say reframing. I believe this is truly the foundation for all the other practices. Perspective, there are many different angles. The Dalai Lama reminds us, for every event in life, there are many different angles. When you look at the same event from a wider perspective, your sense of worry and anxiety reduces, and you have greater joy. End of quote. The Dalai Lama has explained the importance of his wider perspective in that he was able to see the calamity of his losing his country as an opportunity. He had been able to see not only what was lost, but also what was gained. Wider contact and new relationships, less formality, and more freedom to discover the world and learn from others. In his words, so therefore, if you look from one angle, you feel, oh, how bad, how sad. But if you look from another angle at that same tragedy, at that same event, you see that it gives me new opportunity. Archbishop Desmond Tutu's life demonstrates a remarkable ability to confront injustice and guide others to change perspective. Nobel Peace Laureate Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu, a towering figure who helped bring an end to apartheid in South Africa, died December 26, 2021. When African President Cyril Ramaphosa announced his death, he called Tutu a patriot without equal, a leader of principle and pragmatism who gave meaning to the biblical insight that faith without work is dead. Desmond Tutu was a passionate advocate for freedom and headed the country's Truth and Reconciliation Commission in the 1990s. This was a grueling inquiry that investigated horrendous crimes during the apartheid era. It was widely seen as a crucial healing step, as well as a new way for countries to move forward after experiencing civil conflict and oppression. When Tutu voted for the first time in 1994 in South Africa's first democratic elections, he voiced the unbridled joy of a country emerging from a troubled past. Another iconic teacher was psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, whose memoir has sold over 10 million copies and is listed as one of the 10 most influential books in the United States. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl describes life in Nazi death camps, and then he presents lessons for spiritual survival. Between 1942 and 1945, Frankl labored in 4 different camps, including Auschwitz, while his parents, brother, and pregnant wife perished. Based on his own experience and the experience of others he treated later in his practice, Frankl argues that we cannot avoid suffering, but we can choose how to cope with it, find meaning in it, and move forward with renewed purpose. So when I went back to revisit the Book of Joy, I was drawn to a brief description of the work of neuroscientist Richard Davidson. Dr. Davidson tells us well-being is a skill. One of my favorite words is neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. In other words, our brain has the ability to change perspective. Dr. Davidson has mapped 4 independent brain circuits, which have been neuroscientifically investigated and validated. So the first is resilience, our ability to recover from negative states. The second is outlook, our ability to maintain positive states. Third is attention, our ability to focus and avoid mind wandering. And fourth is generosity, our ability to be generous, which is interesting. It's the 8th pillar of joy, generosity. Dr. Davidson tells us that resilience is the hardest of the 4. And I can personally say I am working with resilience every day during these most difficult times. So what I see in Dr. Davidson's map is that outlook and attention are the tools for resilience, and the outcome is generosity. So how to cultivate the neural pathway to maintain a positive outlook? How to cultivate the ability to maintain focus or attention? Do I need to tell you? This is one of the main purposes of mindfulness practice. So right now, without judging or criticizing yourself, where is your mind? Has it wandered during the talk? Where did it go? Just take a moment to notice where your thoughts have been. Whatever is happening right now, perfectly okay. Did a particular word or statement draw you into an inner dialogue? Did you notice when your mind had drifted? Did you notice when your mind came back to this room, this time, this place? The amazing thing, and to me this is absolutely amazing, the amazing thing is that we have this capacity to be aware of where the mind is and to bring it back to focus. We absolutely have the capacity to do that. Meditation and meditative investigation allows us to see what is happening in our minds. The tool for training our mind to focus is to place this intrinsic attention on an object, such as a sensation of the breath, and then to make a decision as to whether we want to stay with that train of thought or bring the attention back to the breath. So let's do a really simple meditation exercise. I would extend to you an invitation to simply notice any sensations as you are sitting in the chair. You don't have to change your posture or anything, and if you want to, close your eyes. Just notice any sensations sitting in the chair. You might notice your buttocks on the cushion or your back against the back of the chair. And take a moment now and just think to yourself, I don't have to do anything. The chair is holding me. Just allowing yourself to be held by the chair. Now I would invite you to notice your breath. When I say that, where does your awareness go? Where does your awareness go when I say, notice your breath? Perhaps to the rising and falling of the chest or the belly. Perhaps you can notice the sensation at the nostrils. Just taking a moment to notice the breath. You can say to yourself, in breath, out breath, if that helps. So using the breath as the anchor, allow thoughts to come, and with a gentleness and a kindness, bring that intrinsic awareness back to the breath, to the sensation of the breath. Always recognizing that you have a choice. You can stay with the stream of thought that has arisen, or you can come back to the breath. Gently encouraging to come back to the breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Now, taking a moment, just reflect how that was for you. So training in attention or cultivating your ability to focus and avoid mind wandering is a giant step towards well-being. Truly, that is why mindfulness has become so incredibly popular in this country. You can't go anywhere, like in the grocery store or to the pharmacy, and not see some article on mindfulness. Through meditation and mindfulness practice, you begin to notice negative thinking and other habitual patterns that might be an obstacle to resilience. So yes, affirmations do work. Replacing negative thoughts with positive thoughts can be a tool for resilience. So this is a little digression, but it came to me as I was waking up Thursday morning. And I've noticed in the past 2 weeks, every morning when I wake up, I'm thinking about the talk. And this little thought came to me. This is a rather unscientific way of thinking about neural pathways. The phrase came, "What makes your heart sing?" What makes your heart sing? So I really want to pose that question to you. What makes your heart sing? For me, it is these lines from a particular Buddhist practice. The great compassionate one accepted this turbulent, degenerative world and made 500 aspirations. You are praised as the white lotus. Whoever hears your name shall not return to samsara. To the gracious teacher Buddha, I pay homage. When I was a hospice chaplain, many of my Christian patients would ask to hear the words of the Gospel of John 14:6. Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. Maybe for you it's Emerson's words. Our greatest glory is not in never failing, but in rising up every time we fail. Maybe it's the lyrics of your favorite song. Maybe it's remembering this joyful piece of music we listened to this morning. Perhaps for our Jewish friends, it is the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. We are a fellowship of many beliefs and backgrounds, yet we agree on the principles to affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth, as well as to promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. So going back to the beginning of my talk, I asked the question, how do we generate a sense of well-being and joy during all these difficult outer circumstances? I think this sense of well-being and joy are directly related to our ability to resilience. I think our personal sense of well-being is what is needed for there to eventually be peace in this world. So this part makes me cry. This is why I asked Joyce to help us with this. Thich Nhat Hanh died this past week. It's going to be a man of peace, a man of incredible peace, going from joy to sorrow. Baby crying. I once had the opportunities to sit with Thich Nhat Hanh, and I have to tell you that I did not, at that time, have the perception or the mind state to appreciate who this man was. His essence was peace. So I'm going to ask us to read together Thich Nhat Hanh, his a teaching, it's number 505. And Joyce is going to lead us.
In unison, let us be at peace with our bodies and our minds. Let us return to ourselves and become wholly ourselves. Let us be aware of the source of being, common to us all and to all living things, evoking the presence of the great compassion. Let us fill our hearts with our own compassion towards ourselves and towards all living beings. Let us pray that we ourselves cease to be the cause of suffering to each other. With humility, with awareness of the existence of life and of the sufferings that are going on around us, let us practice the establishment of peace in our hearts and on earth. Amen.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's been a privilege.
Max, you want to come help put the candle out? And come put it out, Max? In case you hear him a couple of times, I'm Baba. That's what this says, Baba. We were trying to get him to say Papa Daddy, which is what my girls call my daddy, but it came out Baba. And I said, well, since that's an actual word in Persian, Arabic, fine, I'll be Baba. Max. Let's read this, okay? We extinguish the chalice here that it might glow gently in our hearts as we leave this place. And would everyone please join me for our closing words? With unity of spirit, we go our ways in universal fellowship until we meet again. Thank you.